Welcome to More Action, the podcast for entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals. I'm your host, Shelly Bryan, and together we have candid conversations with industry leaders to uncover valuable wisdom and lessons learned. My hope is you use these lessons to intentionally take more action in business and life. I hope you share and enjoy. So today I have a pretty relevant topic regarding the time frame as far as we are about to reach mid-year reviews. And the reason why this topic is coming up right now is obviously it's timely, but I was in a recent, I'm on a program committee within the commercial real estate industry, and we were talking about different programs to put together to provide, education, community within the industry. And this topic came up from many of the women in the room. And it was really interesting to me because I'm sitting there as a business owner. I used to be an employee, and many of them are employees in their organizations. So it was a really interesting thing because I haven't thought about it from an employee perspective in a few years, but it is something that is truly powerful when it comes to your career. And now I'm not talking about mid-year reviews. What I'm talking about is being, your biggest advocate when it comes to your career. And so that's what I wanted to take today to talk about, because right now, and I remember this, and I'm going to share some examples, obviously from an employee perspective, but then also from the employer's perspective when it came to being an advocate for your career, for your mid-year reviews, which obviously can reflect onto your pay, which is why we're working. So I wanted to dedicate this episode to that. And what I am excited to do today is not only, give you kind of two perspectives. I want to give you some ammunition on how you can become your best self-advocate when it comes to your career. And I'm going to do that by debunking three common myths that I have heard both when I was an employee and as well as I've heard from my teams that I've had over the several businesses that I've had since leaving corporate America. So I'm hoping that this one is relevant to you. So whether you are a current employee and, we're in June, we're mid-year reviews, year-end reviews, I might bring this back up again. So if you're leading a team, this is also relevant to you because you might not have, if you've never been in this position as an employee or as a business owner, right? You were never an employee. I want to give you guys some things to think about so that everyone can win. Everyone can be the biggest self-advocate for themselves, and we can also lead people in that position as well. So we're going to do this again by debunking 3 myths. I'm really excited about this one because I think that this doesn't get talked about enough, and it was obviously very relevant by the women that I was in the room with. And this goes for men too, trust me. Absolutely, I'm in construction. This goes for men too. So let's dive in. And I got to tell you, if you haven't come over to the YouTube channel, come on over. I'm so excited. The channel is growing. We hit triple digits on subscribers. We're doing some fun stuff, and we have even more things coming. So come over to YouTube, hit subscribe. You can watch me live as I sit here. I talk with my hands a lot. It's a lot of fun. We're going to start doing some more technologically advanced things. And there's things that I share on YouTube that I don't share on other social medias. That being said, let's dive into the first myth. Okay. So this first myth that I remember hearing and I have heard is sharing what I've done is bragging and makes me sound conceited. Have you ever thought that? Like, oh, I'm just going to, go under the radar. I'm just going to do my job. And I remember there were periods in my career. I know it might sound crazy, but there were periods in my career where I was like, I'm just going to kind of, I don't want to be known. I just kind of want to go through the motions. And you can kind of feel like, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is talking about myself. All I'm doing is like saying how awesome I am. And it sounds really conceited and sounds really bad. And so because of that, right, we're worried about what other people think. That's what that's saying, is that we'll be really quiet about all the amazing things that we're doing in our role. And I want to tell you from an employer's perspective, I totally get it from the employee's perspective, right? You don't want to sound like that jerk that's always talking about themselves. And I got to tell you from the employer's perspective, we want to hear that. We want to hear what you are doing. How am I going to know unless you tell me all of the amazing things that you're doing throughout the year, which helps build your case, right? There's typically the annual review where raises happen. I don't know unless you tell me. So, sure, of course, we can look at reports. We can look at different reports. If you're in sales or based upon, different metrics in the company that you're able to affect, I can sure look at that. But what I want to know, and most leaders want to know, is like, what are you doing in your day to day that's being resourceful? How are you being of service to the company? What are you doing that is helping your peers and your team? Not only I can look at, like I said, I can look at the reports, I can see what you're doing, but I want to know all the other stuffs. Tell me how you have overcome a hurdle. Tell me how you have been able to impact more than yourself, right? Have you been able to help teams, like your teams or your peers, by creating efficiencies? Did you find a problem in some software that you were able to implement and correct it? So reporting, so the reports even came back correctly. Were you able to take a client that was maybe going to leave and bring them back? Not just the number, but what was it that you did? Was it selective, specific listening that you found a challenge that you could help them overcome? And I got to tell you, when it comes to raises and being a self advocate for yourself, it is 100% true. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Now, here's the kicker though, make it more than just you. So, like I said, how are you being resourceful? How are you being of service to the entire organization? Now, one thing that I always did when I was in corporate, and I'm going to refer back to my pharmaceutical side, not the finance, but the pharmaceutical side, is when I first started in sales, you saw my numbers, right? Numbers earned commissions, that's where it was. But we also got annual raises. And I'm going to tell you that I was able to secure and more of the raise pot because I was advocating for myself the entire time. Now, let me step back for a second. When I say raise pot, a lot of organizations, if you are within an organization, and I encourage you to ask your leader, your boss, whoever it is that helps make these decisions, like how does it work? In pharmaceuticals, when I was in it, they had a pool each year, and each manager got a section of that pool. And whatever they got, they had to split, they had to make the choice. And they actually, I should say, they got to make the choice among their team on what percentage of that pie each individual contributor received. So there was a max limit, say like 5 or 6%, and there was a minimum 1%, right? And some managers would just be like, we're going to give everybody 3%. I don't want to rock the boat or anything. But when you have those good managers that want to pay for effort, and that's where I think the really gold spot is for you being an advocate, earn that 6%. Get the highest portion. I always looked at it as, how can I get the highest portion of the pie that's available each year? I did that not only by producing the results, right, for sales and or marketing results that were shown in the report, but I would also send an email every month. Hey, boss, this is what I'm doing. Here's some of the things that I overcame. Here's how I was able to help my team. Here's how I was able to help a client. Here's a change that I made in the organization that now affects the entire country. So it was always about me telling them what I'm doing. The reports say it, but it was, what was I doing? How did I understand and go through overcoming challenges? And the key is make it bigger than you. Okay. So when you feel that, like, oh gosh, I sound like I'm bragging, I sound like a jerk, I want to be like that conceited, person, whatever. Could you tell I was going to say something else and I kept it clean? But how can you not be that conceited person? Is make it bigger than you. And really, when you start thinking that way, you start looking for solutions that are much bigger than just what affects your area of influence. Start thinking bigger. And it's actually so neat. It's part of what kept me so highly engaged. Obviously, it was meeting the metrics, but I always wanted to be of bigger service to the organization. So I hope that helps you kind of debunk that first myth is like, I tell you what, squeaky wheel gets oiled, but make it more about you. My key way that I did it is I would send a monthly or quarterly email to my direct boss, and I would let them know the things that I did. And I made it, again, bigger than me. So it wasn't like, look at what I did, look at what I did. It was like, look how I helped others. Here's how it actually produced better results for the organization. So that is an easy way to do it. You can also, as a self-advocate, ask for meetings. I would probably say, quarterly meetings, whatever is set up within your organization. Ask for quarterly meetings from your boss. Be proactive and let them know, hey, I just want to let you know about the things that I'm doing. Send a follow-up email so it's documented. And you are building your case as to why at the end of the year or when it's time for raises, why you have earned the raise that you are asking for, why you have earned it. Words have meaning. You don't deserve it. You earned it. And I think that is a key indicator. And you won't sound like you're bragging because you're contributing. So that's the kind of employer side of things. Now let's move on to myth 2. And this one, it's funny because I sit here and I look at this and I'm like, I don't think I ever felt this, but what I can tell you is that I heard this more often than not. And as I am leading teams, whether it was with our restaurant, the media company, or now with our construction company, I've heard this from my team. And I love it because it shows that you have heart, but I'm going to challenge you on it. So this myth is, I don't want to make someone else feel bad, right? So you're not going to toot your own horn. You're not going to share what you are doing for the organization because you don't want to make someone else feel bad. There's a few things here that I want to touch on real quick from an employer's perspective is that I love that in the sense because it shows you have heart. But on the other side is, and if you've been tuning into the show for quite some time or follow me on social media, which I hope we're connected on Instagram and LinkedIn, is I'm going to ask you, what can you control? Can you control if someone else feels bad based upon the work and the effort and the excitement and the enthusiasm that you have for your role? Nope, you can't. So again, what can you control? The only thing is you. And so it all comes down to not making someone else feel bad is bringing it back to that bigger picture. It is all how you present it. So there's no name mentioning. You're like, hey, Sally, dropped the ball over here. So I jumped in and took this on, right? That's obviously not how you want to do it. That could make someone else feel bad. And especially, it could get out. There's no name mentioning here. Bring it to the bigger picture. I recognize this challenge out in the field. Here's how we handled it. Here's what I suggest we do going forward to make it better for all, right? You are controlling you and how you are showing up. If someone else feels bad, that's on them. And you know what? They're probably, and this might sound harsh, it is what it is. If they feel bad, they're probably not good in their position. They're probably not engaged. They're probably not wanting to be there. Or quite honestly, they might have something else personally going on in their lives right now. But that is not what should dictate how you take action. Okay, you got to control you. And I got to ask you, how will it feel if when raises or reviews are coming out and you do not get recognized for your efforts or results? Who will feel bad at that point? It's not someone else's fault because you can only control you. So I hear you. If you've ever felt bad that you wanted to do it, make sure you do this in private with your manager. You can document it in email. I always recommend documenting it, especially in kind of corporate in the way that it is now. But focus on the bigger picture. And remember, again, going back to that myth one, the squeaky wheel gets oiled. Talk about what you're doing, how you're contributing, your resourcefulness. And remember, this is business, it's not personal. So, like I said, there's no name mentioning. This is about business. How are you helping the organization? How are you contributing to the organization? Helping out your boss, helping out your team, being of service. Remember, this is business, it's not personal. And really, that leads me into the third myth. And I have felt this one on more times than I can tell you, is that my boss or leader doesn't like me, so there's no way I'm going to get a raise anyway. So first off, I'm going to call you out, just like I've called myself out in the past. That's a victim mentality right there. And also goes back to you can't control whether they like you or not. It's absolutely, from a business owner's perspective, it is irrelevant whether I like you. I don't have to love you. It is about your results, not your friendships, not the personal side of things. And when I was in pharmaceuticals, I'll start back. I mean, this is like 20 years ago now. When I was in sales, I would have a territory. Each district, and my direct report was a district manager. That district manager would, be in the position. It was kind of like a transitional position. So they would be in that position for a little bit. And this is a similar format to a lot of sales organizations. So if you're in a sales organization or run one, this is what you're experiencing. But that is like transitional, right? To get someone some management experience, obviously provide guidance to the team. They would have probably, it depends on the company, 7 to probably 15 reps under them. And they would then move on. And then someone else would move into that position, right? The reason why this one can be true is like my boss doesn't like me is because that person didn't hire me, right? If that person hired me, most likely they would have liked me when they hired me. But because other people are moving into that position, it brings in all kinds of different relationships, and there might not be some that get along. That's okay. Again, this is business. It's not personal. And I will tell you that there were times, and again, I'm not going to name names. There were times that there was friction between me or the boss and me. And the way that it happened, here's what I did, is I controlled what I can control, which is me. I made it unreasonable for them not to pay or reward me for my efforts. So how did I do that? I became methodical in how I shared the bigger picture. I also, when sharing this, like if I'm sharing it with my boss on that monthly or quarterly email, hey, here are the things I'm doing. Here's what's going on. Here's how I'm producing for the company. It's not like, hey, I helped you out. I called this in. I did that. No. Let me share how I'm helping the whole organization and my team and our clients. And one of the other things that I would do is make sure that if I felt enough friction, right? I took action. This is why this podcast is all about action. I took action that would make it unreasonable for me not to get paid for my efforts, right? When it came to reviews and high marks on my reviews, which then correlated with your percentage of the pie for the raise. I would make sure that I'm squawking to the right people. So what do I mean by that? Not only my direct report, but then who they reported to, right? And so there's no problem copying someone in on an email, making sure that everybody knows what it is that you're doing for the organization. It was never about Shelly. It was about the efforts that I did that then went to the greater good. And I can tell you right now in our company, construction company, as we are doing this, there are so many different personalities out there, from subcontractors to our employees and team to industry collaborators, right? Architects, designers, engineers, the cities that we work with. There are so many different personalities, and it's irrelevant whether we like each other or not. We're hired to do a job, and we are going to do it to the best of our ability. And with our team, right, that we are managing, we always focus on the effort. What is the effort? What is the outcome? Where is the resourcefulness? And who is taking action without being asked not to take that action, right? Who is taking that initiative? Those are the things that as leaders, we are looking for. Those are the people that we want on our team. Those are the people that if they want to take on more responsibility, we are going to give it to them. It has zero to do with whether we like that person or not. It is everything to do with how are they contributing to the bigger picture? Are they working with their teammates, the other employees? Are they working well together? Is there camaraderie? Do they want to do it? Now, what I will say is that the organization, when it comes to this, is highly responsible as well, right? That falls on Chris and I in creating the type of culture that does breed that, right? We want everybody to be able to thrive. We in our organization now, right? We are doing the direct hiring. It's not like I shared earlier with the pharmaceutical where all of a sudden I'd have a new boss. This is obviously a little bit different. The culture, though, is something that you can affect. And if you feel like you can't, and if you feel like you're stuck, I'm going to bring it back to you. Guess what? You can only control you, and it's time to find a new organization. But with that, I have to give a quick caveat here because I don't want that to be as like, oh, my boss hates me, I'm going to leave and go find something else. I will challenge you because there are some organizations. I was with one organization where the culture was so bad, I can't even tell you. It was so bad. And after I almost made it 2 years, I stepped away. I needed to find a new organization because the culture was so poor. But I also, at the same time, did incredible self-reflection because you want to make sure, right? The grass is not always greener. You're not just jumping ship because you're like, oh, my boss doesn't like me, or oh, the culture is bad. Make sure that you do some self-reflection in that so that you can own your piece of that and control your actions within it. So I hope that like right now, this either as an employee and or as a leader in an organization helps kind of give you some perspective. And I hope that I'm able to help you kind of squash these 3 myths because I can tell you, you're not bragging. You're sharing what you're doing. It's all about how you're doing it. Don't worry about how someone else feels in this, right? We're not going to name names. It is all how we present it. This is business. It's not personal. You're not going to make someone else feel bad by shining bright. And if you do, you can't control that. That is on them to work on. And that whether your boss likes you or not, if you were like me, where you just got a new boss and you had no say over it, make it unreasonable for them not to pay you. It's not about favorites here. It's about results. This is business. And so make sure you are talking to the right people, keeping everybody informed, and you own the action. Become the best advocate for yourself so that you can provide for your families, so that you can get the education, so you can get the experience in whatever role you're in right now. Make sure that you are taking the actions that you need to do as you go in this mid-year review. And now I got to tell you, as we close out here, right? I hope you stuck till the end because if you haven't done any of this ever, 2 things. 1, it's going to feel very awkward at first, but 2, it's not too late. Get started right now at your mid-year. Okay. Get started. Make a goal monthly. You're going to send an email. You're going to keep tabs. Hey, here's what I'm doing. I just wanted to let you know. And then keep moving forward so that you can earn that biggest piece of the pie when it comes to the end, when it comes to raises. And if you're leading an organization, make sure that you are setting your team up to succeed and recognize that these myths are going on in their head, right? And how can we best support them? All right. You know the drill. If you found value in this, I just would really appreciate a share. I am been humbled by how much this has been shared, the downloads. I just can't say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep passing it on. The word spreads through you, and I just can't wait for you to be a hero for someone else and to succeed in getting the highest reviews as well as raises as you become your best self advocate.